Right, and here I am in Stevenage, and I've been trying to track this guy down. This is Patrick Feetham, and he now lives in Cyprus, but I've managed to track him down to Stevenage, so I'm very privileged to be with him today. And I've known him for a long, long time. He's a great friend of the family, actually. But we're here today to talk about his skating career. So tell me a bit, Patrick. Tell me when and where were you born?
I was born in the centre of London, between King's Cross and Russell Square, in 1950.
25th of October, I know
25th
that.
of October.
It's my mum's birthday,
Yeah.
that's right.
Yeah.
So, was you very sporty as a kid anyway?
I was always, running around. You know, when at school I was in every team until I got banned. I refused to play for the school rugby team for the last 5 fixtures because I turned senior and I couldn't play a rugby match in the morning and then skate and do myself justice as British junior champion, which what I moved out of, and I really wanted to be top in, obviously win a senior British championship in skating. So I said, the rugby master cancelled the last 5 fixtures on the basis of me pulling out, which I thought was ridiculous. And the games master then collared me in tea break or milk break or whatever it was at that time, and said by refusing to play for a school team, I was banned from all the other teams. I said, well, it's your loss if you want to play that game. I said, I was in everything, and so that was it. So I was actually outed from the sort of first stream in the rugby in the games as well. So I had to go with the ones that would never ever be picked by anyone.
Well, how did you get into the skating then?
Because I was quite good on the Jacko roller skates on the pavements and stuff, and some of my mates were going up to Alexandra Palace for the Saturday morning session, which was the sort of kids type session.
What, speed sessions or just? Or...
There was just a 5 minute. There was a couple of 5 minute speed, where they put on speed and you went on there for 5 minutes. And I've turned up with me. I've got persuaded to go with my mates, and they had the higher skates with the wooden wheels, and I had my Jacko roller skates with my rubber wheels. And I thought, well, this looks good. I think I could. I've seen them sort of go by, and I've gone into the middle, wound myself up as fast as I could, and jumped on the back of the line and managed to hang on to for about a lap and a half or something like that. And I thought, whoa, this is hard work, sort of thing, and came off again. And so then
did any of those guys go on to be skaters, or your mates, or?
One of them, I think, was Terry Orme at the time.
Oh, okay.
But then, as I say, the following week I came along. I got some wooden Jacko ones to go on my skates, and I could hang on to the line for 10 laps with them. And then I got my sister's boyfriend's. He had an old pair of converted dance skates, and I could lead the line with them. So that October I got the Dexter. I went down the sports shop, and for £9 6 and 6 I bought a set of Dexters, and then I joined Southern.
Why did you? What made you join Southern as opposed to, say, Palace or North London?
Because of the friendly club.
Southern was the friendly club, was it?
Club. That was, everybody said it's the friendly club, and there was a lot.
It couldn't have been that old when you joined. The Southern club was quite a new club.
It was a breakaway from North London, as far as I recall, but and it had only been going, I think, 18 months or something like that, 2 years maybe.
What year did you start skating? How old would you have been when you started
October
skating?
'64 when I started with Southern.
Okay.
Stuff.
So which would have been your 14th birthday,
14,
effectively.
Yeah.
Okay. So, do you have you got any recollection of your first win? Because I know the record of your first win that I've got recorded is the
Lamb Trophy.
The Lamb Trophy, yeah, which was
January '65, was it?
No, December '65.
December
actually.
'65.
So you've been skating 12 months.
Yeah, and then the January was the British Championship. Yeah.
So up until December '65. So how many races was there for you in them days as a junior?
I think there was 5
They're all
tops, yeah. And one of them was a new one, that was Herne Bay, I think.
all right.
But I think there's only 4 or so.
Was there many juniors
Before.
skating back then?
About 9.
Right.
weren't many. No.
But there was no junior girls, was there?
Or should we say, when I won the British Junior Championship, I think there was 9 only at the British Embassy, because it was a big, great big track, which was a bit daunting to say the least.
So, do you remember the Land Trophy? Do you remember winning it?
I remember the Land Trophy. Yeah.
Did you actually remember the race?
Yeah.
So how did that pan out? I mean, the first victory. I mean, I still remember my first medal, my first victory, and I can remember pretty much how the race went. Can you remember that?
I think as far as I remember, it was Pete Ferrantini and Tom Bartlett, and they just. I think they just blew.
Really?
And I went. I managed to pass them anyway. I'm pretty sure I didn't lead from the start. Whereas, maybe Birmingham. I don't know. I can't remember much.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
So, well, as you rightly said though, but a few weeks later you won the Junior British Trophy.
Yeah.
I think it was only the trophy itself was only 3 or 4 years old. I think at that time it was. It weren't. They'd only had the first Junior British Championship in '61. I think it was. So did you go into that race after having won the Land Trophy thinking, I'm up for this. I think it's.
I can't remember
really
much about that time, but I mean it was all very new to me, and as I said, this track seemed massive at the time. I mean, I can't remember how big the
I think
embassy
it was. I think it was 8 laps to a mile. It's about 200 metres now.
So it was. As I said, it just seemed massive, and it was. There wasn't the atmosphere. I mean, Alexandra Palace was we used to bang the barriers and stuff, and there was a whole load of powder used to fly up on the first bend and stuff, and there was just much more of an atmosphere. Whereas this was sort of very, very quiet and
just a big old lot of air. It was sports train.
So it's completely, you just felt you felt like a little kid in the middle of a.
But did you feel a champion? Can I say? Can you remember?
I can't remember that. No, I can't. It was a bit surreal, probably at the time, And
was you?
I was really, really, pleased as punch going back, thinking, whoa, I made it, sort of thing, But and then the prime concern was, I've got to do myself justice in the seniors, That was because Dave Hart won the Junior Championship before me.
That's right, the old man was.
And he packed in. I don't know whether he even did a race as a senior, but I think he may have done 1 or 2. But he bailed out very early, and I thought, well, that's not going to happen to me. I'm gonna stick at it, and I've got to do myself justice. I'm not going to just be a junior champion,
So was you good from the start? Because like you said, I mean,
I was always fit.
Right.
I mean, I had natural fitness and natural. I wouldn't say necessarily a great natural ability to skate, but I had the sort of the necessary attributes, but skills. Compared with people like Tom and what have you, who were my sort of compatriots, and I mean, Dave Hart, was just seemed in a different planet.
Right.
When I saw him skating, and I saw the sort of stars, Leo and Stan Jennings, and these sorts of people, Ricky May, they all seemed to be,
That's funny though. You're talking about Stan Jennings. I'll just digressing a bit from the interview. It was really funny because I spoke to Stan Jennings probably a good 12 months ago now, and he says, there was I've not met him yet, but he was on the phone and we were talking. He said, there was this cocky young kid from from our club. He says called Pat Feetham. He says, have you been in touch with him? so he obviously made an impression on Stan the man.
Well, we had a few escapades, shall we say, out of skating.
Oh right. Yeah. So you turned. So you would have turned senior on his 16th birthday, so that's October '66 then. So that's so 10 months on from winning your junior championship. What was it like coming up against the seniors in them days? So you turned, October. So that's actually the start of the season, really. Start of the race season. So you now turn senior. You was up against the likes of Folly, Sharman in them days who.
Yeah, but there was, with the handicap races,
Yeah.
you were just aware that they were behind you somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and you, not your guts. I mean, in my case, I always seemed to be, the back markers used to go off at a pace that they knew they could catch the front ones. Didn't seem to matter what sort of stage, shall we say, they as long as they won the race,
Mm.
So but I always felt I was daft there because I'd always do by far quite a bit, a few seconds the fastest heat, but I never qualified for the final. Whereas people like Tom or whatever would be in a slower heat, but they'd qualify,
Yeah.
And I thought, there's something wrong here, But eventually I got to being fit enough effectively that I could outdo them, certainly, and my handicap was extended. I think the Cricklewood was the first.
Yeah, you won the Cricklewood in '68, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, it was just, I just sort of, obviously the back markers knew that to catch me they'd got to go some, so they went off at a greater pace, shall we say, and I used to get hauled in about 2 or 3 laps to go,
So at that time, so you won the Cricklewood in '68.
And I won it by some yardage.
So the Cricklewood in '68. So that means that you're now you've been senior for 18 months, 2 years, maybe. Yeah. So, but up until that point, when you first went into the seniors, and until you won the Cricklewood Cup, the handicap, but could you see progression? Did you feel you were progressing?
Oh yeah.
And you could feel that.
It was definitely. I mean, and part of that, I can't remember at the time. Part of that would have been to do with my skates, and because I changed from Dexters to Beadles, and then eventually I remember we had the Stars, I think, from Italy, and that, the new skates made a big difference to my bendability, shall we say, what have you. And so the more I got into better skates, then it improved me, as a skater.
So
it was very, very important to me. I mean,
the skates were the equipment.
There were times in my career when I really had some skate problems, and I mean, we'll probably hit that later on in the interview. But to me, the skates were really, really, really important. Whereas Bobby Smith, for instance, he used to practically lock his skates up, and he would still be able to skate around these bends and stuff as if like silk,
So when like we're up to the late '60s now, and you've got people like Fry, who was British champion '67 and again '69, and you got McGough again, the British champion, and Mickey Driver, who, funny enough, I saw the other week. But but these guys. And relatively young guys, if you like, so they're within the same.
Coffey was the youngest that I can recall at that time. I think he was about 19 when he won the 5 mile.
Yes, he probably was 66. I think he was.
And so he was the youngest of them, as far as I recall, anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, they were sort of up there, and.
But did you look at those and genuinely feel I'm in reach of those guys, because they seem to just
not on the track.
Oh really?
No, the big breakthrough really was in '60. It was I think it was '69.
Right.
When the thermoplastics came out, Beadle produced his thermoplastics.
Okay.
And I went with a mate to Beadle's, and we bought a set of these thermoplastics, and we said, and I thought, got to try them out. So we walked over to Palmer's Green car park and unbeknown to us, walked into a national team. It was the last training session before the trials took place that Saturday. That was, I can't remember, it was a Saturday, and then the following Saturday was at Levis's.
So that must have been around about '69, maybe.
I think it was '69.
So that would have been the Argentina team training.
Yeah, it was '69. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this was, and as I say, I put these plastics on. I mean, this was the first time I'd skated on the road, and I was blowing them all off. I mean, they couldn't believe it. You know, I think Bob was the team
Bob
trainer
Alford,
manager. Yeah, Bob Alford. And he put up something like 60 laps. I think I led 48 of those 60 laps. And there was only Sharman that was able to just creep by me on the finish.
Really?
I mean, people like Folly and
The old man.
Stan Jennings,
Yeah.
Ron Hawkes.
Yeah.
No, I don't think John was there.
Okay.
But all the sort of ones that I looked up to, they just couldn't stay on, you know. And I'm just, you know, like this sort of thing, you know. And I thought, hey, there's something, you know, something here for me, you know, this road skating. And I remember, I think it might have been Leo, funny enough, that asked me, are you in the National Skating Association? I said, no. I said, what's that? Because I mean, I didn't know you had to belong to the NSA and what have you. And he said, thank for that, you know. Excuse my my French in the interview, but you know, they were saying, you know, oh, thank God you can't.
That must have might have been earlier than 69. Then it could have been 68 in Falonica. Yeah. And for what's it, Vicenza rather.
Anyway, that was the ball game. So I realised that I'd got a chance on the road, and obviously my track skating was improving. You know, as I matured, shall we say?
Well, I know we spoke briefly before the interview about 71 Wetron and the Europeans there, and so because I was going to ask you about, when did you see yourself putting on a GB shirt? Well, it must have been around that sort of time because you must have felt then you were in with the show. So tell me about 71 and your feelings behind that and not actually being selected.
71 was a weird one because I was training in the week at Crystal Palace with John Foley and Goffey, and I wasn't hammering them, but you know, we were working, but I was doing the donkey, you know, the majority of the work at the front, and it was pretty obvious that I was the strongest of the three from the work capability, and I think I was finishing. You know, John would just pass me literally by about 6 inches on the line each time on the finish. But as I was probably doing 2 laps to 1 for John, and Mickey wasn't capable of coming to the front. I mean, it was that sort of.
Was that so? Were these team trials? Were they? Or
no, this was just training.
Just training.
Right. And then we'd go to the trials on the weekend.
Okay. And
for some reason, this Bovingdon track on the airfield there, it just seemed to sort of cut me in half. There was something that, you know, my legs felt strong, my lungs were obviously strong, but it just seemed to cripple me in the gut somewhere. You know, I don't know what it was.
Was it? Do you think that could have been nerves because you were so good at the trials?
No, it was just
the track itself.
It was the track itself. It was, you know, horses for courses.
Yeah.
There was something there that didn't agree.
How disappointed was you when your name was on the team sheet?
No, I didn't expect to be because the positions that I was finishing in the training didn't warrant me being in the team. So I wasn't disappointed at that aspect. I was disappointed.
Jeff Mattick went.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. But I was disappointed because I knew from 1969 when I did the 6-day international that Wetron was a track I would really fly on. I mean, it was relatively identical to Palmer's Green Car Park where I trained. I did all my road training at that time. It was the same speed in effect. Obviously it was a better track, but
Did you go and watch the Europeans?
Yes, I did. Yeah,
you did?
Yeah. No, I was reserve, so I was.
Oh, was you really?
I was in the centre.
Oh, okay. Oh, so I didn't realise you was reserved for 71.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I didn't get a badge because I was only a reserve.
Yeah. What was it like when Fry and Folly won? I suppose that was quite.
I was pleased for them, but obviously it just showed gutted because I saw John win, and I knew I was on that track.
You could have.
I would have been better. I would have been stronger than him, because it was had a hill, had the hill and everything, I mean, obviously John had the bend skills, but so he'd have. Yeah. I just knew I could have won one.
Amazing.
That was the first signal in my career from my
first
personal
coming down to your first
achievement aspect. Yeah.
Well, in '72, you win your first senior scratch race at Rye House. believe
Did
it or
I
not.
remember
You
that?
did.
Yeah, I remember that.
With-
Yeah.
And Fry second and McGough
Yeah.
third, yeah. So,
Yeah, I remember that.
but did
yeah.
you know it was your first scratch win? Did you?
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
No,
But-
that's a surprise.
Yeah, that was so that was your first scratch win. So, but I was going to say, because that was your first scratch win, you'd been, as a knock on the door, certainly in training and the trials and that, and you'd won the Cricket World Cup, the handicap in '68 and '70. So, what was the turning point, though? Do you think in your skating career? At what point did you go from being a good skater to being a top skater?
Probably, I went to Gistol in 1970 because I got, after the Veteran 6 days, I got invited back by, people said, we'd love to, see you over here, but your club never comes or something. So I said, well, I'd come, and they said, well, come out, and it was me and Pete and I.
Pete Howe.
Pete Howe, yeah, and I went to we went to the Zambald track and raced there, and we raced at Gistol, and there was at Gistol there was Sharman and the Palace team came and what have you, and that was I was a relatively and also ran in that event. But by the following year, I actually won the event. That was my first win, and I think I'm not sure, but I think I might have been the first British guy to win abroad.
Right,
a weekend as such.
One of the weekend races.
So that was the first one, and then shortly after not that long after, I won the 50-kilometre international, and that was a classic, and there were some really good skaters in that.
Sure.
So I thought, that was. I won the weekend that went before it as well.
Yeah.
So that I would have said was one of the turning points.
Well, there was no Europeans or worlds. Well, in actual fact, from '69 to '75, there was no worlds.
Yeah.
So that was a bit of a gutter. But there was no Europeans in '72. So you got 71 was veteran and '72 nothing.
73 was Grenoble.
And then you got '73 Grenoble, and you're not in the team.
No, I know.
Why?
That was. Well, again, that was one of the sickest parts of my skating career, because Gerard, who was my protege, I trained with him, and we did so much together, shall we say, in training and what have you. He went over to the other side with your dad and Mulaney.
Oh, because he joined the Midland Club, didn't he, as well?
Yeah,
Was that around that
they
sort of
talked to him.
time?
Well, because of the Scottish, what's the word? I'll tell you this honestly.
Yeah.
Because of the Scottish friendship with people up north as opposed to them down south, the two Johns they knew that if Gerard and I carried on together, we would beat them, and we were showing signs of that already. And so they had to split us, and they picked the weakest link, and they started talking with Mum, Gerard's mum.
Mrs. Bissett, yeah.
And they generally talked around the family, and they persuaded his mum that I was holding Gerard back, which was not the case at all. I can assure you, we saw what happened after. But so they persuaded her that I was holding him back. So they persuaded him to join, or because of the family pressure, shall we say, he was persuaded to join them in the Midland Club. And so I was on my Todd, and Gerard couldn't skate for another club in the same season, so he became NSA. But at the trials, he skated with them.
And they helped him through.
And obviously Goffey was capable of, with his own track skills and what have you, by the time I'd got a bump from one or two, shall we say, it was, I could either be at the front of the line, or I was fifth.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't break in,
Was you aggrieved by that? How did you feel about that?
I was well miffed.
Was you?
Yeah, because but and again, I mean, the select, Bob, I've always been empathetic to be able to feel, you know, the other side of the story sort of thing. From Bob's point of view, Bob Alford's point of view, he can either select a team or he can break up a team and put relatively an individual into it. So I could understand the problem point there. So you know, I was disappointed, but I could see the logic behind it. Yeah,
but it
so
didn't make you any less miffed.
No, that's right. Yeah, I mean, I could, you know, I'm very much, It
So
just made me even more determined. Really, that's what it boiled down.
Well, now, so really, you're now talking 1974, and you're still not in the national team,
Exactly.
really. Yeah. So you know, you've been up in the door for 6 years.
I've won races, you know, weekends in Germany, Belgium, and second in France and stuff, you know, and I can't get in the British team. Yeah.
But then in '74,
was a 5-man team, so it was.
But you also won the British Championship that year. Your first title, the 1,000 metres.
10,000 was the first.
The 10,000.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought it was. Yeah, so
it was a 10,000.
So yeah.
It wasn't until '75 when I won the
time trial, of course it was. Yeah. So there's a naught missing off my notes. There's a 1,000, 10,000. But tell me about the British Championship winning the 10K.
That was a doddle.
Really?
It was an absolute doddle.
Where was it?
It was at Tatum Park.
Yeah. Okay.
And someone was off the front of the line. I can't remember whether it was Roy Lawrence or someone of that ilk was off the front, and so the lap board. So the lap board was off, so to speak. They were waiting for. Anyway, there was something going on. I mean, I was aware of what was happening because I was always aware. You know, that was my strength, and same with relays and stuff. You could always rely on me to know what was really going on. You know, and I could see these guys in front of me, and I'm thinking, they got it. You know, they got it wrong here. They're going a lap too early, and I'm just sitting in, you know, I'm thinking this is great. And when it came to the last lap, you know, as we're going across the line and the bell goes, they're thinking they're already going for the finish. And I thought this is so they've obviously tried to prolong their sprint, and I've just gone, you know, and it was the easiest race I've ever won, really. I mean, apart from ones that were given to me, so to speak, you know.
So how did it feel to be senior British champion there?
Well, it was just a giggle. I mean, I mean, it was
nice.
Good, but it was. It was. I was just laughing because of the way it happened, you know.
And you were skating for Southern then, still.
I was skating for Southern, yeah.
So, but then you did make the team for the European Championships that year in San Benedetto.
Yeah, because it was a 5-man team, so there was no contest really at that stage. Gerard had dropped out because he broke ribs at Grenoble.
Oh, really?
He fell in the relay beside me at the time, funny enough, but you know, or just across the track. I mean, it's a wide track.
Yeah.
I didn't, you know, he didn't clash my skates. He caught somebody else's. Yeah. And hit the deck, and he never recovered from that.
Oh, the Europeans.
Yeah, the Europeans.
You skated the relay.
I skated the relay because your dad got his rib done, didn't he, by Perron.
That was in Grenoble.
Perron,
That was in Grenoble.
Yeah, that was payback time for what he did in the road in France.
Was you a reserve?
I was reserve
at Grenoble.
Yeah.
So you skated.
So I skated the Nations Cup relay or whatever they called it.
They could. Yeah. So who was you paired with in the relay?
Goffey. We did a great job. We had it down to a T. I can just remember him. I can remember because you had a sort of. You could either go. You had to go. Most of them were going around the lap, and you had to make the choice before a certain cone or something.
Yeah.
And we got it down to a T where we went, you know, pushed the guy, which stopped. I mean, we were running on deliberately a little bit slower, and then hitting each other because we were strong enough, and stopping ourselves enough so that we could get around this cone, and we didn't have to do this big loop.
So it must have been Gerard and Mulaney then was the other team then.
Yeah, I suppose it must
have been. Yeah.
So
did you place in the relay?
No.
No.
We didn't.
Okay.
No, I can't remember.
But
can't remember
so
which one,
San
but it was
Benedetto.
I just really enjoyed it. You know, it was one of those.
I suppose that's the first time you come out for GB in effect, really. I suppose, but
yeah. But it was. I don't know. We did it. You know, when I've raced with Goffey before on relays, you know, it's always been good. You know.
So when you went to San Benedetto then, for the road circuit there, you finally made it into the team by right. So okay, it might have been a 5-man team, but you're in the team.
Yeah.
So, but how did that come up? How did it feel? I mean, when you got your call, was it a letter that you got and you thought, yes, I'm in, or did you just expect to be in anyway?
I think I expected to be in because,
so there's no shock when you got
no. But the race, as far as I recall, the track wasn't particularly, you know, ideal for me.
Right.
And I don't think I performed particularly great there. But I did as well as, I wouldn't say as well as anybody else, but you know.
Do you remember much from that?
No, I don't. No.
Wasn't Jeff Mattox again? I think
Jeff was racing. Yeah. But no. It's one of those sort of relatively blank events because there was no great highs as far as I recall, the British team. Although didn't Patty? I think Pat Eason might have been there. She might have won something.
Pat got bronze in Grenoble, and that was
Grenoble.
Yeah, that was Grenoble.
Okay,
but in San Benedetto, I think Dad, Fry and Mattox got third in the relay in the last event. I think they come. But that's from what I know.
Can't remember it.
Yeah. So, but in actual fact, believe it or not, you say you didn't do particularly well. Yet you were the highest placed British skater in the 1,000 metres. In the knockouts, you come 6th in some of that.
Did I really?
Yeah, you did. Yeah,
that's a shock to me.
Yeah, I did actually look that up. And so
was that 1,000?
It was 1,000 metre knockouts. Yeah, and you were 6th. Yeah, he was the highest placed British skater in the 1,000. Yeah. So
that's total news to me. I forgotten all about that.
So what was training like though back in the early 70s? I mean, like, you know, you've got Tatum Park, but because I mean, you came through an era where it had been rinks and wooden wheels, and then you'd come through into the road circuits and Tatum Park being a track, and albeit it's not a skating track, or it's used predominantly for skating now, but it was a cycle track. But so how did you find that transition? Did that help you? The indoors to outdoors?
Tremendously.
Yeah,
helped me tremendously. Yeah, I mean that was what I was. It took away this centrifugal force business. I mean, I couldn't. When I sort of look back now, I didn't have the ability to squat perhaps as low as I could have done. I had upper body weight, which meant that my centre of gravity was higher than everybody else. I mean, if you look at the general, I mean, most skaters were 5'9", 5'10"-ish, and I'm 6 foot, so I was bigger than the average skater. But I'm built up top.
Yeah, big lad.
I remember my brother talking me doing press ups. When I was about 15 or something like that. And in 1 week I put on half a stone. It's just, like that sort of thing. And I couldn't lose it. I never lost it from that, I mean, that's there, it's natural, But
do you think you'd have carried that? Do you think you'd have been...
So,
because you're quite a dedicated person in terms of, you obviously
totally
worked...
dedicated.
So, whatever you put your mind to. So do you think, had the continued to be rink skating, although the roads and helped you and the outdoors helped you, do you think you'd have still continued to have been a skater had it been rinks?
Certainly, yeah. I mean, when I joined Mercia, the Midland Club, which renamed, when I joined Mercia later on in my thing, which I'm sure you're going to have to ask me questions. But anyway, when I joined Mercia, and I think before then, I was already. I can't remember whether I was in Mercia when I first started coming up to Birmingham to train on the embassy. Was it embassy?
The embassy was there.
Granby
Hall. So
Granby Hall.
Mercia in Leicester.
I used to come up. We used to come up every Tuesday. Drive up from after work. Drive up to Leicester and skate there, and that brought on my skating tremendously. When I could learn to go round the bend flat out, practically and cross skate the whole thing, that brought a completely different thing to my skating. And the other thing was, which you wouldn't be aware of, there was up at Alexandra Palace, although the rink had closed, they'd laid a square which was relatively small, but I used to leave work at just a few miles down the road and drive up there in my dinner hour, and I used to just go skate around this circle, lunchtime after lunchtime to practice this cross skating business. It didn't come natural to it didn't come natural to me.
Yeah.
And even with all of that, I remember in '77 going to Syracuse with Jared and Chloe, and Jared and I skated on Syracuse, and he was able to skate. I mean, I was just looking at it. He was able to skate 5 meters before I could. I was still sliding. I mean, how the hell can you sort of skate when you're still sliding, And it's just, as I said, you've either got it or you're not. And I always viewed, your dad, and I mean, John will tell you this. When John was on form, so to speak, I couldn't live with him. There was no, there was just that sort of gap. When they were off form, then I'd got a chance. That was it. I mean, on a road, on a normal road, or something like Crystal Palace along straight with a bend on it, I've got a chance. But on those sorts of, I mean, there's the Kings Norton, for instance. There was one night training up there with him. I mean, I just thought, I might as well, take my skates off and pack up now. If this was, if this was every week, because if he was going, he was going that particular night, and there was no way I could live with him, so to speak.
So was training particularly tough then? Did it get tougher through your skating career? Not in terms of your own abilities, but in terms of the intensity that you put into training. Was it a point where you thought, I've got to train more and more and more? And then, because I mean, you look at the people in skating these days. You went to the World Championships last year to watch along with me. You saw the skaters there. They're professional skaters now. I love that.
I absolutely love that.
But do you think it was hard work? Was there more play than work, if you like, in them days in the 70s? Because I know, like, my dad used to smoke, and
there was not for me.
It was So
talk me through
a particular week.
When I won the 50 kilometre, I took you through my 50 kilometre week. Shall we say? For 7 weeks before I won the 50 kilometre, I was coming home from work at 4:30, jumping on my bike, cycling from North London, Finsbury Park to Crystal Palace, which was 18 mile across the London traffic, through the jams and stuff, to Crystal Palace. I would then put on my skates, and I'd do a 40-minute and a 20-minute, which was 10k, 5k in effect. And then I'd put my skates on my back and cycle back again, and I did that 7 days a week before the 50k, and then I won the 50k.
So the hard work paid off.
It was hard,
and it was hard work.
It was hard work and dedicated.
Did you think that the others were training as hard as you?
No way. No way. No way. No, but they had the natural. They trained as hard as they needed to beat me. I was the one driving the. So it was a case of, oh bloody hell, Pat's going. We better put a bit more in. I mean, that's how it's, because let's face it, if you can get away with it, you'll do it, wouldn't you? But I was after winning, and the only way I could win was to be absolutely on blob, so to speak.
Well, a year later, 75 is quite an important year.
Absolutely, yeah.
It is an important year. So
very interesting winter that.
You take bronze at the World Championships in Mar del Plata, Argentina, 1,000-metre knockout. The first question I'm going to ask is, for somebody who sees himself as a bit of a road skater, Mar del Plata, as I understand it, was not the most grippiest of tracks.
No,
and
no.
you know it's a 200 metre banked slippery track. How did you manage to get a bronze?
Well, there's 6 months. You've got to take it back at least 6 months, really,
Right,
Because that was the winter that, first of all, I did yoga, meditation, and breathing exercises from yoga. So there was a certain amount of, there was a lot of focus on that from that score. I also teamed up with a running coach called Eric Brees from my athletics club, Haringey, who was in BT, so I run cross countries and stuff with him as my sort of manager, and I used to train with him on the running side through the winters. And I asked him, I said, is there anything you can do, or maybe, I can't remember how it came about, but anyway, he ended up coaching me in skating for sprinting. So he came over to the track and he had a look at it and had a chat with Di and what have you at that time, sort of sometime after perhaps. But he looked at what was needed. He saw a race and he looked at what was needed, and we started adapting some of the running type sprint stuff to the skating. And so I was doing these, 1 lap, flying 1 laps and flying 2 laps and start practice, just to the line, So and we were doing sort of sprints on the whistle at various points of the track where I had to kick sprint, bump, so like a 1,000 metre one, funnily enough, but that wasn't the plan. It was just, you've got to respond to somebody else sprinting at any point on the track, and sometimes it's a real pig because you're down in the gutter relatively, and you're trying to sort of, dig yourself out when one foot's sort of going to go inside the curb and stuff, that sort of thing. So anyway, that sort of got me a bit more adaptable within the sprint ability. But I was focused on training pure top speed and pure acceleration. And that changed. And if I tell you that 500 metre time that I produced that day, it showed because if I put the fastest start, if I put my fastest start in training and my fastest 2 lap time together, I was still nearly half a second quicker on that day. So it proves that I do actually produce something extra in races. And Jared used to say the same. He said, "How comes you can always find the extra yard or something, in
the race?" But how did you get round the track in Argentina?
Because it was banked.
Yeah, right.
It was banked. I'd learned. I'd learnt how to skate bends.
Yeah.
From that point, I had the skill to skate bends. Yeah. I had the brain. I've got very, very good vision and stuff. I mean, one of the reasons I think I was a top skater was because of my eyesight. I've got very wide peripheral vision, so I can see people here, and I can see speed instantly. I can judge speed perfectly, so I could step into things. I could see things coming before they had. Doesn't mean to say I had the ability necessarily to be able to do what I wanted to do, which was the fallback. I mean, Jared showed that to me. He was saying, "Pat, you've got to be here," and no fucking good being. I can't get there. I haven't got your sort of
maneuverability.
That sort of. Sheer aggression. It's that white fibre. Aggression. I'm going. I could do my best, but it wasn't good enough. You've got to have your feet, your centre of gravity in the right place to be able to do it.
Well,
and that was the thing, and Argentina was easy for me, relatively. I mean, bank tracks were. I could see the line.
Yeah.
I mean, when we talk about, we were talking earlier about Jerry McGrath, for instance. Jerry had better track ability on a straightforward track, but when you get into bankings and stuff, there's a particular line. You sort of go maybe a third around the bend, and then you drop to miss that lump over on the right hand side.
Yeah.
and it was being able to see those sort of lines. That is easy for me.
Right.
So there's more to skate. I mean, that's why I chose roller skating. I mean, Ernie tried to get me over to the ice, and I said no. I says, to skate in a groove on my own is no fun for me. Although I could have been obviously really good, probably, but yeah, metronome skating is easy.
So okay, so
that was Argentina. I mean,
well, this bronze medal. Right, talk me through the bronze medal. And the reason I say this is the reason I'm bringing this up. This is for Bill Begg if ever he gets to see this. Right. So you're in the 1,000 metres.
But that was luck, wasn't it? I was in the 1,000 metres because Mickey didn't want to skate it. That was the only reason I was in it.
Right.
That was fact.
So So before we go on to the actual racing, tell me about that.
Well, the team was selected at the bar while I was in bed. that was the answer to that one.
Okay. So how did you feel about being in 1,000 metres then?
It wasn't just the 1,000. I mean, I was in my 2 weakest distances.
So you was in the 1,000 metres.
I was in my 2 weakest distances.
Which were what?
The 1,000 metres and the 5,000. The 5,000 is anybody who knows me skating. 5,000 metres was about the point where I started to be stronger. 10,000 and 20,000 were my strongest.
So the 5,000, that's the race that never was, isn't it?
That's the 5,000 race. The final
wasn't run.
Yeah.
And everybody came out. Yeah, that's
right.
right. Yeah. So, Mulaney won the losers final, the placement final, I should call it. He'll kill me if I say that.
Did he?
No, we don't say it.
Yeah, I've forgotten that one, but yeah.
So he came home the highest placed British skater in the 5,000. But okay, so
I got selected. I was selected for the races that the others didn't.
Because there was only 4 races, wasn't there? Is that right?
No,
there was
the 500, the 1,000 knockout, the 5,000, 10,000, 20,000.
Was there 5 races? I thought there was just the 5. Okay, but yeah, possibly. Yeah, okay. I thought it was 4. But
of course, some of them weren't.
Weren't run. There was only a couple of days. So okay, so tell me, how did you react when they told you you're in the 5,000 and the 1,000?
I was so demoralised. You cannot believe how demoralised I was when I found, because in the trials I was pretty well first or second I proved myself. In 500 metres I was near first if I wasn't first. 1,000 metres I was winning by a second, and the 5,000 was the only one I sort of struggled a bit in. But 10 and 20s, it was between me and John.
So the fact
as far as I recall, anyway. I mean, I might have some, but I proved myself time and time again on a flat track that I was up there, and then to be given my 2 weakest distances in effect, because obviously on a knockout situation, it wasn't a time trial. If it had been a time trial, then certainly, but on a knockout situation, to my mind, I mean, John, Mickey, any of them would have beaten me on a 1-to-1 because they knew how to beat me.
How do you think that team selection came about? Was that Bob Halford, or was that, do you think the others railroaded him to select that team?
You'd have to speak to Bob on that one.
No idea.
I think it was no. In Bob's mind, and I understand that. As I said, empathy and what have you. Bob always would select a natural skater over a track. So even though he'd seen it week after week at Granby or wherever we were, Cosford, or I can't remember where we were training at the time, but he would see me week after week struggling to not hang on, but I'd be losing this gap every bend until past the 5,000 metre mark, and then I was the one that started hitting the others. So it was. He'd seen that week after week and seen me prevail, which is why I was in the team and all the rest of it. And then we went to Argentina, Mar del Plata, and he saw the same again, me losing a gap, and I was shutting it on the straight each time. Well, I mean that was natural, that was normal. And he said to me that I think that in the longer distance you'd eventually drop off. You wouldn't be able to close that gap. But he'd seen it week after week that I was able to close it.
Did you have words with him, or did you just accept it?
No, I accepted it. I was just sick, and I knew as I said, it was done at the bar, so it wasn't something I could do anything about.
Okay.
That was his honest opinion, and
So-
you can't fault the guy for his opinion.
So in the
I knew it was
thousands,
wrong.
so you come to the 1,000 then, and so when you get to the 1,000 meters, was that a spur, do you think, or did you need a spur, or
No, I didn't need any spurs, but as I said, that night I was in total depressive state, and I thought, well, just got to make the best of what I've got.
So when you got the
Sorry. Before the selection was taken, I mean, he did say that afternoon. He said to the team, he said, "Have you got any wishes? Any races you'd rather be part of?" And I said, "Well, the only pointer I can give you," I said, I think I could get fourth. I could get in the top 4 of the 1,000 metres because there's the fastest time.
Yeah.
And he said, "I'm not interested in fourths," he says. "I want first, second, second and third." I said, "Well, you asked for a point." I said, "I'm just saying I think I could get a fourth in that." And that was the end of it. So he sort of threw that back at me, and that was the end of it. And as I said,
So tell me then about the 1,000, because you're right. We've got to the point where, let's say we're at the point now where you are
I'm in the
last 4. You're in the last 4.
Oh, in the last 4. I was going to
We're in the
say,
last 4.
well, I just went for the.
So you're up against Cantarella in the last 4. You must have been up against Cantarella in the last 4.
Yeah, but there's more. There's a
go
lot
on
more
then.
to it than that.
Go on then.
Yeah. Well, I drew a jap in the first round.
Oh.
I was pretty confident
So
I
you
could
knew
beat him,
you
so I
could
went
do
for a
it.
knockout with him, and we produced the slowest race of the championship, and then ended up I did blow him off. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because I forget that it's 1,000 metres, because when I was a kid,
7 rounds.
Yeah, so yeah. I mean,
So-
it used to be 500 when I was remembering, but yeah, 1,000
And then
metres.
so then it was go in the centre and change your wheels.
Yeah.
And get ready, if they needed change.
But they wooden
because it was
wheels.
Bostik,
Wooden wheels, yeah.
So I had to check my wheels and see what sort of state they were in, whether I needed a new set or whatever. But then it was, once I'd done my skates, it was sit there and wait for the next round. Well, I was using this meditation thing that I'd learned, the sort of focus and what have you. And I had it down to a T. I'd be sitting on my bag there, cross-legged, and then I'd hear this sort of bang, which meant the sort of next round was going to start, and I knew what heat I was in, so I was thinking, okay, I'll count it off, and then when I think probably the race before mine, I'd get up, kick my legs out a bit, practice a couple of little starts, practice starts to get the old metabolism moving, and get ready to go to the line. And I've gone for fastest time, one of the fastest times thing. And then in the last but one round, there was Boucher, who was a very good time trial as well, and I beat him by a second or something, some sort of thing. And then to get into the last 4, I had to beat 2 Argentinians who were the top 2 Argentinians one had won the 500 metre, or second to Kenter in the 500, Scafati. Mm-hmm. And as a pair, they were working to get the fastest time, so the other one would be through to the last 4, and I beat them on my Todd. So I was well chuffed with that. And I said to Bob that that's why I said I thought I could get 4th, but I wasn't expecting 2 people to be working together.
Yeah.
But anyway, I cracked it and got into the last 4, and unfortunately drew Kenter in the last 4.
Yeah, it was you. Yeah.
So, and I did my best. I kicked in the middle of a bend, which we reckoned that he wouldn't be able to respond to because of his legs, the size of his legs. So I actually did probably the best kick I've ever done in a race, and I got a sort of, I don't know, maybe a 5 metre gap or something like that. But of course, once he got on the straight, he went woof, onto the back of me and then chose his point to sort of blast me basically, and when he came past me, I mean, he's different sort of, he's got an extra gear or 2 to me, so that was it.
So that put you then into the 3rd, 4th placed
That's right.
race.
Yeah,
And you
with
met
Maxwell.
with Pete Maxwell.
Pete Maxwell.
Well,
yeah.
before you tell me your version, I'll tell you that this is we come round to this, but this is for Bill Begging because Beggy always reckons that it was. He said that it was an unjust disqualification. He thinks it was a bit of an airy fairy sort of move that you threw your arms in the air because Maxwell just brushed past you or something, and it was a sympathy vote and you come third.
Yeah,
That's this is
load of old cobblers. Load of old cobblers.
So come on, and what happened?
Well, we knew from the previous races on the track that the pair of us were pretty similar, but I had a better start, so I used that to get the start, to make sure I got the start, and Big John, your dad, said, just wind it up gradually, faster and faster, which is what I did. And I mean, I've trained that in, time and time again in training and stuff to be able to do. I knew my pace to a T. I'd done so many sort of thousands and, stuff like that. So that was a doddle for me. And so I was able to judge, and depending on what he was doing, as I said, I've got this peripheral vision that I can see, so. And as I said, I was just winding and staying in the centre of the track. So he couldn't come down the inside very easily, and the outside I'd see him sort of starting to wind up. And by the time we got to the sort of one lap to go, I was flat out pretty well, So we've come into the last bend, and he didn't have any option. If he waited to the bend unwound, he wasn't going to come past me. He didn't have that sort of kick speed, and so he knew the only possibility he got was to crash me and hope he got away with it, which he didn't do, and he didn't. So that was it really. I mean, it was very similar to Cantarella and Fry in that particular race, where Cantarella knew he couldn't pass John. The only thing he could do was crash him and hope the judges, but in his case he had Italian judges on the inside, so.
So when Maxwell crashed, he crossed the line ahead of you.
Yeah, definitely. Because I couldn't skate. I was recovering from the bump sort of thing.
You got the nut. Okay.
Straightforward.
So and there was your bronze medal.
Medal.
Fantastic. And
so I was chuffed to bits to think that I come out with.
Well,
I got the build up to it. Yeah. And I also qualified for the final for the 5,000.
I know you did.
So that was a giggle, but I got rained off. So that was.
What was it like skating in Argentina?
Great. Yeah.
What was the crowd like?
Absolutely fabulous. It was best. One of the big memories of my skating career.
Such a partisan crowd.
It was the partisan crowd. It was the samba drum or whatever that was going. Of course, we had the invasion, the crowd invasion, where they all come over the barriers to kick the Italians after what's his name?
Yeah, one was pulled to the floor.
One RG hung on to the guy's shorts, or shirt to stop him getting the gold, and so the Italian turned round and threw him on the deck, and so some of the crowd sort of started coming over the barrier to go and kick him and what have you, and we all got pushed into the changing rooms, and I can remember Ruggieri saying, 2,000 years ago the Romans used to put the Christians in the thing. He said this time it's the other way around, So it was great fun. And then the following day we had the real, whereas before we'd had the sort of green, the boys, with their army guns and stuff. This time we had the real guerrillas, with the sort of unshaven, the double-barreled, thing with tear gas and stuff. And there was one guy in the crowd that had obviously done something that he shouldn't have done, and you saw the guy go in and go smash straight on his face and drag him out, and he got carted out and thrown out, it was real stuff then,
Exciting though.
Oh yeah,
A life experience, isn't
But
it?
I mean, you know, John. I mean, in the 20,000, this was the night before. You know, the 20,000 that I had to watch. Unfortunately, I'm sitting on the top of where the people used to come through to get onto the track, and I'm sitting on this arch, in effect, with my feet dangling in the breeze, and I've seen this bit of a fight on the track, which John won, but he'd worn himself out in doing so. So he went backwards, and the Argentinian went past. And I know the crowd was spitting because I heard about that afterwards. So John was plastered, but yeah. So the Argentinian went on, and I think that was the Argentinian that went on and then ended up grabbing the Italian, you know. But if John had been the nasty one, I could have found myself. Yeah, I mean, it went through my mind. I could have found myself pushed into down into this, this hole, shall we say, in front of me. So yeah. Good stuff.